students and professors of Reddit, what moment made you want to rage quit college? I tanked my GPA due to missing half a semester for a health issue. I was allowed to appeal to the dean and basically get my grades tossed. I would have been out the tuition, but my GPA would have survived. However, I had to have all my professors sign off that they agreed the appeal was justified. One professor refused to agree on the appeal and I wasn't allowed to turn it in. My advanced foreign language professor dictated that we could not speak English at all during the class, or we would have marks taken away. This was fine. Until one day a girl started coughing up blood and we all stopped to make sure she was okay and help her out. Professor took marks off because we spoke in English. I'm still fucking angry. Edit. There were 13 people in the class. All of us disputed this. When we became aware they'd be taken away, we were informed during the next lecture. The lecturer took a voluntary leave of absence. I'm not sure if he's back at the university because I graduated before he could have come back. The language was Japanese. The time that both my T83 Plus and my T89 died during a final exam. Got a failing score on a lab report even though me and the rest of the group thought we did everything in the rubric. We went to our TA's office hours later to ask about the score. She basically reversed all subtracted points because she was taking off points for things we had done correctly. The next year one of my lab mates got a grading position with that TA. She admitted to him that halfway through the year she stopped paying attention to the reports and assigned random scores. WTF, this is a college level course for our major. You can't do that. I did event management at uni a few years ago. Our lecturer brought in her 8-year-old daughter, who had been a stage show once, to teach us about stage management. Almost all of the class didn't turn up to the next lecture in protest. I missed a quiz due to a medical emergency and had the documentation of my visit and everything. I emailed my TA. Our quizzes were during discussion sections led by our TAs about making up the quiz. The TA told me to email the professor because it's his class policies. I emailed the professor who then told me to email the TA because the TA is the one who administered the quiz. When my supervisor decided that I needed to completely rewrite my master's thesis for publication to an angle that was complete nonsense and unpublishable. Background: there are 2 colleges in my town. One university and one community college. I chose community college because it was cheap. English 101. Write a 3-page creative piece on why you chose this community college. So, not knowing how to stretch its cheaper than university into 3 pages, I wrote about how I struggled with menial jobs my whole life and wanted a better future for me and my family. I was actually pretty proud of it. Classic overcoming hardship story. Teacher hands it back with a C. Says I didn't answer the question. I flipped. I circled the creative writing portion of the assignment sheet and stapled my graded paper to it and gave it to the department head and dean. The teacher was replaced mid-semester due to medical issues. I assume I wasn't the first one to complain about her. Fuck her. Was assigned a project to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and to then write an essay on what it was like. Super weird / creepy invasion of privacy. We were supposed to either not say why we were there or to just pretend to be an alcoholic / ex-alcoholic. My dad used to drink a lot and I took the assignment personally. Couldn't even look at it. A few students straight up refused to do it. I ended up giving my friend 1/8 of weed to make up some bullshit essay for me. I asked a question and the teacher ignored me. Minutes later, a different student asked the same question and the teacher said good question and answered it enthusiastically. There's always some dumbass in a lecture who rephrases what the prof just said and asks it as a question to sound smart. Professor, so based off X we found Y to be true. Student, so does that mean Y is true because of X? It's infuriating. Just recently bought a $300 loose leaf textbook for math. Now this isn't any higher level math. It's college algebra. Something everyone at my school has to take. Of course it's written by my professor. Of course it changes every year. Took it out of the shrink wrap and saw that the book was 150 pages. Leafed through it and saw that it is literally nothing. There's hardly any information. like 2 practice problems per topic, and a glossary. The real information comes from a $100 access code that has more practice problems and actual information needed to complete the class. So now I'm out $300 on a fucking paperweight and $450 on one general education class. There's nothing that can be done at this point. I can't get a refund. All I can hope for is pawning it off to some unsuspecting student for likely less than half of what I paid for. Now I'm all angry again. Fuck you, Professor J. I need to go lie down. I was docked 10% of a final essay because I had the wrong date, so it wasn't following MLA standards. I put the date I submitted instead of the date it was due. I got a 90% on the paper. I had a professor who had serious mental issues. This guy was just a raging maniac with the scariest explosive temper. The smallest things would set him off. For instance, this one girl had a bunch of papers stacked on her desk, and he asked her what it was, and she politely informed him that she was a tar, and they were tests that she was going to grade later. It's not like she was grading them in class. She was taking notes and being quiet. It just happened to be on her desk. He shouted at her to put it away. He would get angry when anyone asked any questions. He almost threw a chair at someone and yelled profanities. Everyone was scared of him. So myself and another student spoke to the dean under condition of anonymity, since we were still in his class. The dean disclosed our names to him, and our crazy prof started cold calling us, and he gave me a B instead of an A, even though I made an A on every test and quiz, because my class participation was abysmal. Nobody wanted to speak in his class anyway. The whole thing was aggravating. There are people at the company I work for who have been fired for less. My brother is a college professor now, and he says the world of academia has its share of arrogant egotistical pricks. But of course there are also nice ones. I'm a professor. Normally I try to be understanding if students are just taking my class because it's a requirement, so they are rusty on some things. But once when I was teaching calculus second, a student asked what's a derivative? I actually gave a very quick answer, along the lines of a derivative is a function that measures the rate of change of another function. But come on. This is calculus second, the course that comes after calculus I. And calculus I is all about derivatives. It's like going to watch the World Series at someone's house and asking what sport is the World Series again. I took a course called Companion Animals. No matter what I did I could not get less than 100% on anything. Missed a test. Make up at home. Unsupervised. 100%. Final project completed in 15 minutes with a glue stick. Poster board and Wikipedia. 100%. It was such a joke. Granted, I thought maybe, by finishing the class I could have an animal familiar like a goat or something. Never happened though. I had to write an essay about my feelings studying abroad. For reflection. So obviously I made the whole essay then had to resubmit it, because that is not how you should be feeling. She misspelled my name in the email. Still makes me really mad. First day in a particular finance class senior year. Professor, who here is taking other classes, pretty much everybody raises a hand. Professor, who here has a job, most of the class raises a hand. Professor, well, that's a mistake because this class will take you at least 50 hours a week just to pass. I thought he was just trying to be a hard-ass. But then the guy behind me confirmed that the class would indeed take that much time per week every week just to get by because it was his third time taking the class and he was otherwise an A student. Sorry. I have bills to pay, other classes, and other responsibilities. The time does not exist to put that much time into this class. So I did rage quit. After trying desperately to get through the class for a couple of months. My SO is working on her masters right now. And a couple weeks ago, the professor added a fucking huge assignment that wasn't in the syllabus. And it wasn't even going to be graded. However, if they didn't do it, it was going to count against their participation grade. A few days ago, he announced that it was actually to try to teach them to stand up for themselves. He wanted the class to tell him the assignment was bullshit. They all failed this little test. Usually when you take any kind of math-oriented exam, math physics, mechanics, etc. You get a pack of problems slapped on your desk and you finish it in the time allotted. So you can generally blow through 90% of a test and get stuck on one difficult part for the remainder, or just have that aha moment at the end to squeeze in a few extra points. But this one guy had a bright idea of handing out and collecting each problem at 15-minute intervals. So once the problem was collected, that was it. Even if you figured out the mistake earlier, it was already too late. Hate the prof to this day.